For the past few months, I've talked about the Insomniac leaks from the business and strategic perspective. I haven't really looked into a lot of the inner workings of what pretty much was going on with the Marvel Spider-Man development, the Marvel Spider-Man 2 development. I also want to take this particular time to say, as I'm reading this particular article, if you're an Xbox fan who is not happy with Xbox taking Indiana Jones to the PlayStation platform, I want you to imagine Indiana Jones as the subject of this particular article rather than Marvel Spider-Man 2. Just say you were in a warp alternate universe where, instead of Marvel Spider-Man 2 coming out this last year, that it was a game called Indiana Jones and the studio was Insomniac. Pre-production began in 2018 at peak earlier this year. There were 264 developers working directly on the project, with an additional 116 contributing in the form of IT managers, IT staff, and other support roles. 314 minutes of cinematics alone cost over $40 million. The final cost was roughly $30 million over the original $270 million budget, according to the presentation, requiring the game to sell 7.2 million copies at full price to break even. The game had sold 6.1 million copies by November 12th. Now, if you were in the position to make a decision if Indiana Jones should try to gain as many sales as it possibly can in order to basically recoup its expensive costs, what would you do? So, shout out to one of my longtime audience member who pretty much has contributed to this channel for, many, many months on. I think this is a very important conversation that we're having. This is an Xbox main, and he puts a comment out here. Delusional Grinder, shout out to you, says, my main issue is Microsoft giving their first-party games over to PlayStation. It's an absurd move that massively damages Xbox and its gamers, while they still get games taken away and left and right by Sony. So this is him saying that Sony is money hatting these games while Xbox doesn't care, and they're giving their games away to PlayStation. Now, here's the thing. You guys know I'm friendly with the Xbox fan community, right? I've, pretty much pointed out how we can level out the scales in the gaming conversation and ensure that we're objective. So let me pretty much, take the gloves off a little bit. If you're an Xbox fan and you're actually complaining about this, you should own a Series X and a Series S, like both consoles at the same time. I say this because you want Xbox to actually compete from a position that it's not, in to compete from. This is just the reality. Xbox is not in a position to actually compete right there because what PlayStation understood was it had already sold over 20 million copies of 2018's Marvel Spider-Man on the PlayStation 4. It had the grounds to be able to expect that it could sell 7.2 million copies easily. Indiana Jones, I don't know if enough Xbox players who, like even a lot of PlayStation players, are constantly playing Call of Duty, constantly playing Minecraft, constantly playing stinking Apex Legends. I'm not certain that Xbox is confident that most of their sales can come from the Xbox platform. This is the reality. This is the hard pill that, yes, every Xbox player needs to swallow. And I think for the most part, you're getting there. And this is why, for the most part, again, most Xbox players are now in a position where they're like, all right, the games can go to PC. Granted. However, PC is also kind of weird because, again, you still are not guaranteed that people are going to buy your game on PC, especially seeing now how the Indiana Jones IP has now basically become something else with Disney and their movie that they just did. The excitement for Indiana Jones is all over the place. So now that you actually have this particular scenario and this reality in your hands, where or at least you envision that in order for you to get your 7 million players, let's just say the game cost $215 million to make, Indiana Jones. Let's just say it didn't cost any extra like the Spider-Man game, right? And you have to break even with 7.2 million copies. You got to go find a place to sell the game, right? And then you put it on PC. And after having put it on PC, you still come up with maybe your 7.2, then where's your profits? Because that's break even, right? Break even is 7.2 or maybe 6 million just because you didn't, spend an extra 30 million. Then where are you going to get your profits from? Because Disney's going to be on your neck collecting money for every copy you also sold. The idea is that you're going to move that game to the PlayStation platform. Or you go to the Switch. Or you go to the Texas Instruments TI-84. Who can you give your game to play so that they can make you your profits back? Again, Xbox is not in the position to compete from that area with such a potentially expensive game. I hope that makes sense, because the game is expensive on the upfront and it's expensive on the back end. A game like Starfield, which is, Bethesda expense or whatnot, Xbox expense, the game is only expensive on the forefront. Basically, what I mean is they only have to pay for the development cost, overhead cost, and any cost associated with, them as Xbox, the owner of the IP. And then after their costs are, pretty much, recouped, profits start going into their pocket. They're not sharing it with anybody more than they need to share it with. So Starfield copies sold on Steam, they pay their 30%, they bounce, right? But Indiana Jones, they will pay 30% and still pay fees on top of that. So their profit margins are low. So the way you account for lower profit margins in order to make them higher is that you sell more of the product. And hence, the game should be shipped everywhere in order for those profits to come into place. My guy, if this game does not do well, the studio is going to find itself in pretty much the stressful situation that Insomniac found itself in this same article that I've been reading to you. Do you know what happens down the road in this article? The PowerPoint slides that were part of the leak started to talk about possibly reducing the workforce, putting pressure in saying, well, we need to reduce headcount. We need to put some other people who were developers that were not meeting, standards. We need to put them on improvement plans so that they can eventually get fired. This is the real world we're talking about. And I decided to show this scenario because remember when this stuff leaked, everybody was like, oh, Insomniac's planning to fire people? Somewhere the cost has got to be, mitigated. So your joy as an Xbox, player should be that this game goes to, that PlayStation helps to actually fund this game. Because the more you keep these developers in place in the same studios that they're in and they're not being, removed from their workplace. Was this Kotaku playing a freaking video here? If for them not to be removed from their workplace, the idea at the end of the day is that you want their games to sell well. Because if they continue to maintain, employment, then more games can come to you at a, much better pace. It's just kind of how the world works. And I know, we're gamers and we like, we're googly-eyed about our, favorite platforms to play and all of the above. But you see, our favorite platforms to play are not, they're not immune to the forces in the market. I like AMD. I do like NVIDIA, don't get me wrong, but I like AMD because AMD came and stuck it to Intel. Oh my gosh. You have no idea how very frustrated. I was begging people on Facebook and bargaining for Intel chips because I wanted to basically make videos. I was like, man, can you, would you be willing to? I felt like a fool. And then AMD showed up and said, hey, what do you need? I said, I need cores. And they gave me cores. Oh my gosh, AMD. I mean, if it wasn't that they were a corporation, a soulless corporation that still just wants my money, oh my gosh, the gratitude that I have for just the fact that was a thing. We call her mama. That I don't know if y'all know AMD's CEO. I can't remember her name. They call her mom or something like that. It was kind of a meme for the longest time. Because, man, those of us that did production, that did video games, we really wanted work, performance. And what? Intel was selling crap for thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars. You wanted, you pay up, and it was trash. AMD showed up and literally changed the game. But even AMD themselves, are seeing market forces actually hit them hard in the GPU side. And now they're pulling away from the high-end GPU market pretty much because expenses and costs will never be negated from even your favorite, franchise or product or game or platform or whatever it is. This is just the reality of economics. You really got to divorce your preferences in many cases from a lot of those. Thanks for watching the video. Appreciate you guys so much. Let's chat in the comment section. Peace out.